Welcome to Dad Gives Advice. My name is Orestes, and in this video, I'm going to be covering some basic internet scams. On almost a daily basis, we're all bombarded with emails, messages, and texts from scammers trying to separate us from our money. In order not to be taken, we need to recognize the signs of a potential scam and always follow some basic rules when coming across messages from people offering to give you some valuable prizes or money. Both young people who are digital natives and older folks who might not be as savvy on the internet can fall for these schemes. They sometimes work because they tend to go after your emotional reaction to a particular message. And when you're acting on emotion, you're not thinking clearly, and you're not clearly able to discern whether the message is from a scammer. Let's look at a few examples. First, we have this email example where you come across an email that's sent to you that says you've won a fabulous prize. In this case, look, I've won an iPhone 14 Pro. Hopefully by now, most of us realize that these are all bogus messages. And luckily, most email systems will automatically put most of these messages into junk folders, so you don't even have to see them. As you can see, mine was in my junk folder right here. Clearly, I'm not getting an iPhone. If I were to click on any part of this message and notice that the whole thing here is a button, even outside of this blue area, this blue highlighted area, it's all a button. So if I click anywhere in this message, I'm going to be taken to, as you can see there, a web page. So if I click anywhere in here, I'm going to be taken to a Google API web page, which is probably going to try to run something that will maybe install something, some malware on my computer, or some spyware, or something that I definitely do not want. So you definitely do not want to click on any email like this. This might also take me to an online form where it asks me for some personal information. Hey, you've won an iPhone. Give me your email, your bank account information, your social security number, your passwords, and all this other stuff so I can send you your iPhone. Well, what's happening there is that they're trying to get your personal information so that they can impersonate you and hijack one of your financial accounts, like a bank account or a brokerage account. Just don't click on these. The key rule of thumb to remember for this kind of attack is that you should be very suspicious and untrusting whenever you are randomly targeted to receive some amount of money or a prize. Ask yourself, out of the billions of people in the world, is it more likely that I was randomly selected to win this prize, or is it more likely that they've sent this email to millions of people in the hopes of getting a few to click through and launch an attack? By now, almost no legitimate business does anything like this because they know people will just think it's a scam. You might sometimes get an email like this with an attachment enclosed. It might be a Word document like this case, or it might be an Excel spreadsheet. And as you can see here, it comes from customer support. There's no text in the email. It's very cryptic, very odd. And it says bill ID. And you wonder, well, do I owe somebody money? Did I buy something online and ask to be billed later? And now this is the bill. Should I open this document and see what's going on? And that's what they're trying to get you to do here. Obviously, this looks like a scam to me, but to an untrained eye, they might just go ahead and double click on this and open the document. And that will probably, again, launch some kind of cyber attack on your computer. What is likely to happen is that this document includes some kind of macro that has a built-in script that will connect to an online source that will then download something onto your computer, install malware, and now you've got potentially spyware going on. You've got potentially a ransomware program going on in your computer that will then force you to have to pay somebody a bunch of money in order to unlock your computer or to unencrypt your documents. So you should never open or double click on any enclosure, any attachment to an email. That's the bottom line for these kinds of things. The other thing you should do when looking at emails that look a little bit suspicious like this is highlight the sender information here, and you'll see it says, it usually says customer support or some kind of generic sounding term like that. But if you click on this and look at who the actual sender is, the email program that you're running will actually tell you, okay, it's coming from Kevin Smith, a number at gmail.com. Well, that gives you a big clue. If this were a real customer support email from a real company that you owe money to, it wouldn't come from a Kevin Smith at gmail.com. It would come from accounts receivable at some company name, right? So that's the big clue that this particular email is definitely a scam attempt. So again, the general rule of practice here is never to open an attachment that comes in an email, even if it's something that came from someone you know. If it was forwarded, it may have been part of the attack. Sometimes an email chain is set off by somebody that you know that opened up an enclosure and then had malware installed on their computer, and that malware actually sent the same email to all of that person's contacts. And so you don't want to randomly trust enclosures or attachments from folks that you know, because they may be part of a hacking scheme themselves. If you get something like this that looks odd, but you do recognize the sender as somebody you know, call them up. Text them, ask, hey, did you send this, or is this some kind of scam, or were you hacked, right? Before you go ahead and be part of that hacking scheme. If you are absolutely sure of the sender and you have contacted the sender and they say that, yes, this is a legitimate email with a legitimate enclosure, I would still not directly open up this file here. I would right click on the file and have it scanned by my anti-malware or antivirus software, just to make sure that it does not include a known attack. Just always be safe rather than sorry. If your antivirus does not include scanning from inside an email, then the best option might be to save this document to your desktop and then have it scanned by your antivirus software, again, before you open it up. The other thing you want to do with emails, and want to make sure that when you do look at the sender, and if it does look like a legitimate email address from a legitimate domain of an actual company, ensure yourself that you very carefully and slowly and methodically check every character in that email. Now, in some cases, scammers will mimic a website's name by changing one letter. In other words, as an example, in this case, they might change this to gmail.com to make it look like gmail.com when in fact it's gmaii.com. And that's a common way of trying to fool somebody who's quickly reading through a domain when they're trying to figure out whether something is coming from a scam site or not. So make sure every character matches what you would expect, and make sure there's not a 1 in place for an L, or there's not a 0 in place for an O, and those kinds of things. Another type of scam attempt that we are seeing more and more these days is, of course, the text message scam. So let's look at one of those. I have an example right here. And in this case, this is trying to, again, get my juices flowing as far as my emotions going. Oh my goodness, my delivery address is incomplete and I have a package that's stuck at the sorting center and it's not getting to me. Wow, I need this package, or I wonder what I'm missing. I wonder what this package is. I better go immediately act on this and click on this and find out what's going on, update my address information. That's the emotional response that these people are trying to get you to have. Remember, the best scams are the ones that work on your fear or on your anticipation of getting some reward or of getting something for free. So in this case, it's, oh, I don't want to lose out on a package. Let me go get it. This could be something that I ordered that I forgot about, right? So again, be very, very careful. Do not click on this link, because as you can see, this header says USPS. So US Postal Service is a legitimate place. But if you look carefully here, you see that the URL is UOPS, not USPS. And that's one way that scammers try to fool you. If you read this quickly, you might see it as USPS. You might click it right away. You're busy, you want to do something quickly, but take your time and make sure that this is a legitimate address. The best practice rule of thumb here to take away from this is to never click on a link, whether it's in a text message or an email or any kind of messaging software like WhatsApp or Meta's Messenger. Links like this in texts and emails and message apps are always dangerous, and my practice is to never click on them, even if they come from legitimate sources. So rather than click on something here or clicking in an email link, what I would do is, if I thought it was a legitimate situation, is I would go to the browser, go to my internet browser, type in the URL into the browser's search bar, and then go there directly through the browser without going through a link in another program. That way I'm ensured that I am going to the right place. I'm going to USPS.com. And then check there to see if this was a legitimate situation where they do need an update to your address. More than likely, it's going to be a scam and you can just ignore it. Another scam that I only recently found out about is one that targets young people, typically on Instagram. And these are people that might be models that are starting out, or young influencers that are starting out and look like they might be in need of some quick cash. And the way these work is that an artist will contact a person, let's say a model on Instagram, and they'll say that they have a patron that is willing to pay the artist an amount of money in order to paint a painting based on one of these models' photographs, pictures. And the way the deal works is that the artist will make some money, but they want to compensate the model for the picture. So they'll say that they'll take 70% and the model will take 30% of the money that the patron is paying out. And so that sounds really good. You're going to make 30% of some amount of money. Let's say it starts off being a small deal like $100. So you're going to make $30 for free. The artist will make $70. Artist will paint the picture for the patron. The patron gets their painting and everybody's happy. You made a quick $30 for really no work. So there's all upside. What could go wrong? Well, the issue here is that what happens is that in the background of this scam, the artist and the patron are really the same person. The scammer is impersonating both the artist and the patron. And what happens here is that the artist will say, well, the patron is going to send you a check. Let's say it's $400 for the amount. And then they're going to want you, the model, to cash the check or deposit the check into your bank account. And then send the artist the $70. And then you keep the 30, and that's how you make your $30. Sounds good? You made an easy $30. Well, from this point, a couple of things could happen. One is the check could actually be legit. It could actually be a good check, and it could all work out, and your money clears, and now you have $30, and you believe that the artist went off and did the painting and provided that to the patron. And that is there to give you some confidence that this actually is a real legitimate thing, and there's nothing to worry about. So the next time around, the artist will contact you again and says, hey, great news. The patron now wants me to do a bigger painting with one of your other photographs. And in this case, they're going to pay me $2,000 for this. And of course, I want you to have the same deal. I want you to have that same 30%. So the patron is going to send you the $2,000 check, and then you're going to deposit the $2,000 check into your bank account again and send the artist 70% of that. So sending the artist, now in this example, you're going to send $1,400. That's the 70% of 2,000, and you get to keep the 600. So at this point, now you've made $630 for sitting around having cute pictures, and that's about it, and that's really good. Looks really good. But what is likely to happen after this stage is that this second check for $2,000 after a week or so will bounce, will be returned for not having insufficient funds. And what that means is that they gave you a bad check. They gave you a check that didn't have any money behind it, and it'll just not clear all the way through to being cashed at the bank from which it was drawn. What the bank will then do is they'll subtract the $2,000 back from your account and charge you an additional amount of money, maybe $50, for having deposited a bad check. So now that's minus $20.50 minus the amount that you sent to the patron. Of course, the $2,000 was never real. So what you're really losing is the $1,400 plus the $50 minus this $30 that you got when the check was good. And so you're really losing $1,420. And that's how these scams work. So you want to definitely be really careful when you're out there online on these social media applications and somebody offers you money for something. You got to just remember that money just doesn't come out of the blue for free. Usually there's something that's going on. So be really wary when you're offered a deal like this, especially when the deal is something as convoluted as this, where somebody sends you money and then you have to send money back out to somebody else from your bank account. If this was a legitimate deal, then the artist or the patron would just send you money to pay you for the use of your picture, and you'd be done with it. So if somebody does offer you something like this, that would be your first response. Your first response should be, well, I don't want to be cashing checks and then sending money out from my account. You should never do that. you should say, well, just have the patron send me my 30% and send you your 70%, and we're done. We don't have to do all this convoluted transferring money back and forth. At that point, the artist/scammer might respond with, well, the patron is a little lady who is not used to technology and doesn't have any of these kind of applications, and so they always deal with checks, and that's why she wants to send a check. In that case, you just say, okay, well, you clear the check. You artist, take the check, deposit it into your account, and send me the money for my part. Don't ask me to cash the check and then send you money. That's where the scam could come into play. But more than likely, these are going to be attempts to take money from you, and they're likely not going to be legitimate. So be very, very careful when somebody's offering you money or something of value where it involves you sending money from one of your accounts back to that particular individual. Even if you're not cashing actual checks, even if the money is coming through from a Venmo or some other cash type of application, that could be only a temporary transfer or that looks legitimate initially, and the same scam could happen. The patron sends you $2,000 via Venmo, and then you send the portion to the artist that is owed to them, and then a couple days to a week later, Venmo reverses the original transaction because they saw that it was not legitimate, it wasn't backed up by real funds, and now you're out the money that you sent to the artist for their portion. Remember that people don't usually just throw money at you for no good reason or for very little in return, and these kinds of things tend to be just to string you along and to catch you into a bigger and bigger scam. So in summary, the main things to remember about internet scams and tips to follow are these. Don't click on links in emails, texts, or messaging apps. Always go to the browser directly and type in the URL yourself and go to the site to see whether an offer or a request for information is actually legitimate. Don't open attachments in emails unless you know the sender and have scanned the attachment with antivirus or anti-malware software prior to opening that attachment. Don't send money to anyone if the intent is for you to receive money. That's key. Only send money to people if you are actually buying something from them. And don't give out personal information like social security numbers, account numbers, passport numbers, passwords, or other bank information. These are all attempts to try to get to your personal financial accounts and to try to steal your money. The main rule of thumb here is really that there is no such thing as easy money. The way to get money is to work hard for it. Once you have some of that hard-earned money saved up, check out my videos on investing to see how best to put it to work for you. Now, these are just some of the scams that are out there, and there are many more scammers and more scams are being made up all the time. Just keep in mind the basic rules that you have here, and also keep in mind that these people are trying to tug at your emotional reaction. So when you see messages that invoke an emotional reaction, think twice before proceeding. Think about the fact that this could be a scam, and you should be cautious in moving forward with these particular messages. That's my summary on internet scams. Let me know if you spot a new scam and you want me to take a look at it, or you want to discuss it here, or if you have any other topics you'd like to see me cover. Thanks for watching and have a great day.